Madam Director, I see it is 8 o'clock. For the record, I see we have a full quorum. And so please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This meeting has been properly noticed as a special meeting for the State Loan and Investment Board. First thing on the agenda today is tab B, and that is the mineral royalty grant reports. If there are any questions on that, we have Ms. Blackwell here to answer those.
Are there any questions on the materials past tab B? Any questions? Hear none, please proceed.
Right, next on your agenda is tab D, and that is farm loan matters. We have one matter for the board's consideration today. As presented in the materials for the board, there was a farm loan that was approved at the April 3rd, 2025 meeting for Janie Pardue, Travis Pardue, and Elish Hansen as individuals. They have contacted our office and requested a change in the name on their loan to the Tarpeigan Ranch LLC and Travis Pardue. This does not change any of the terms of this loan other than the entities that hold it. So all rates will remain the same, and analysis was done to ensure that the ability to repay also is correct. So we would recommend a change to Tarpeigan Ranch LLC and Travis Pardue as an individual.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Treasurer.
there's no discussion. I'd move Director's Rex.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by if there is no discussion, it's been moved by the treasurer, seconded by the superintendent. All in favor signify by saying aye. Nays? That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next, that brings us to tab G, the mineral royalty grant matters for our meeting today. Today, the board is considering 14 funding applications for Chapter 3 Federal Mineral Royalty Capital Construction Account grants. The total MRG grant funding that was requested by these applications totals $9,629,189. The suggested funding allocation from our office is $5 million today. As a reminder, this is the second of 4 MRG meetings in the 25-26 biennium. And it should be noted that there is currently $16,826,318 for allocation. The recommendation for our office has 3 different sections. First, a full funding recommendation, which includes 9 applications totaling $2,984,884. 4 applications for partial funding at $2,015,116 and 1 no funding recommendation, all of which are available for discussion by the board at this time.
Very good. Members, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move Director's Rex for the full funding.
For the list of the full funding, let's have a consent list first then, Mr. Treasurer, if that's okay. Is there a second for the consent list?
I'll second.
Thank you, Madam Auditor. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none?
Adoption of the.
All in favor. Sorry, we got it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carries. Move adoption, Mr. Treasurer.
Yes.
Second. Madam Auditor. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're off
Thank
to a
you,
good
Mr.
start.
Chairman. Just to say, that brings us to partial funding. Mr. Chairman, would it be helpful if we went through each of the 4 partial funding recommendations?
Without objection, I think that probably makes sense.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Blackwell.
Ms. Blackwell, it is so good to see you today.
Mr. Chairman, it's great to see you as well. I will go into a little history on how we came up with our funding amounts, if that pleases the board. The pot of money, the 5 million, obviously wasn't enough to cover the 9 million in requests. So going into the funding committee, we set kind of a bar of, okay, request of $1 million, let's try to fund those at 50%, so $500,000. And that's how City of Sheridan's Priority 2 project received a $500,000 recommendation. And furthermore, on that application, they had received funding in June of 2024, a little less than $424,000. So that also went into our consideration when we were recommending this amount. The Laramie County Fire District application, we spoke with them and reached out to them. Their application initially was a 70% request. This request was above what they were eligible to receive. In conversations with the chief, he indicated that $120,000 would be appropriate and would meet their needs. So that was the funding recommendation for that one. Town of Pine Bluffs and Town of Wheatland are a little different. You'll see they're a bit higher than anyone else. Our thoughts going into this is Town of Pine Bluffs is matching this grant with an SRF loan as well as a capital construction loan. So they are showing their commitment, dedication to this. And while we couldn't give them their full request, we wanted to help them as much as we could. And finally, the Town of Wheatland, this is an instance that an entity failed to meet the deadlines with ARPA, lost their ARPA funds, and once again, we wanted to help them as much as we possibly could. Their initial recommendation was $650,000. We had a pot of money that was left over at the end that got split between both Town of Pine Bluffs and Town of Wheatland, and that's how we came up with our funding recommendations.
Thank you, Ms. Blackwell. Questions from the board?
I guess a general one, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
Were there any first priority applications from any other community that we don't see on the full funding or the partial funding list that didn't get anything?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Treasurer, the only application recommended to receive no funding at this meeting is the Bighorn County Fire District Number 2 request. That request was $1.9 million, which obviously we can't fund. And they had indicated on their application partial funding would not be beneficial to them. That was confirmed with office staff, and therefore they're on the no funding list. That's generally why that leftover money that we had allocated of the 5 million, we split between those two communities.
So, Mr. Chairman, so other words, everybody that walked through the door got something except for Bighorn.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Treasurer, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Blackwell, this might be a question better suited for the applicants when they come up and speak. But the only question is with some of these, whether or not, I know that we're trying our best to give them money now, knowing that we need to be conservative about money in case we have an emergency later on in the next year of the biennium. But curious if it is better than to fund them now rather than to wait later on, if these projects they need to get going on and thus the need to fund them now rather than to wait until our third or fourth MRG meeting.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Superintendent, I believe that is a question that must be answered by the applicant. I know a lot of times it's easier to get pieces and making sure that they're getting to their point because maybe they get a little chunk here. They leave this meeting and are able to say, okay, we've got a little extra here, and they can go back to other funding sources and say, okay, we did this much. Can you give us a little bit more to make up the difference?
Thanks. Follow up at all? Okay. Mr. Secretary, anything?
Well, I'll wait. I think we should hear public comment on the partials, but I know there's some from Wheatland here, but I
Okay.
assume you were going to move into that, so.
Yeah, let's work through each one of them. If there are no more questions, why don't we recognize the city of Sheridan first? I note there are some people online. So I'll ask here if there's anyone from Sheridan. Anyone from Sheridan? Please come on up. Didn't see you back there, sorry. Thanks for coming down. Press the button there.
We're all good now? Okay. Yeah, I'm Rich Berger. I'm the mayor of the city of Sheridan. This is Stuart McCray. He's our city administrator. That money that we're requesting today is for our hub, which is our senior center. And it's for renovations that they want to do to that facility. And again, as was stated earlier, that partial funding will help us. It will help us not only proceed with the project, but help us chase additional funds that we might be able to pursue as well. So that's where we're at today. And the hub is kind of a center of our community. It's a vital part of our community. As you know, senior citizens, we have quite a few of those in our community. We're kind of a senior citizen town, so to speak. So it's a well-used facility. A lot of people come to it. They do a great job. And this is just money that will help them pursue renovation for various things that they need in their facility. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
yeah, thank you.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I recall correctly, this project was brought to us during ARPA funding, but was unable to qualify, being that it was a senior center and there was a little bit of disconnect over qualifications.
That's correct. They've been pursuing funding for quite some time now. So yeah, this is all partial of trying to get those renovations done and pursuing those funds. So yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Stu-
Mr. Secretary.
As my understanding, my memory was at some point we did provide 500,000 for this. And I think our briefing confirmed that. So I just want to.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, they received just under $424,000, so not quite 500,000.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And what pot did that come out of?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Superintendent, that was awarded to them at the June 2024 MRG meeting. So it is MRG funds, but it was at that point, they essentially got what was left in the pot at the end of divvying out the funds to everybody else.
Mr. Chairman, follow up for the proponent.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you tell us then what so is the $1 million the full cost to renovate the parking lot?
No.
I would be lying if I said I knew for sure. I know that's what they were trying to pursue to complete that project. I know that they've went out for additional funds as well. And so I just can't answer that positively without knowing for sure. So.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Slib Board, I'm Stuart McCray. I'm the City Administrator for Sheridan. I do understand that I believe we have a member of the Hub on Smith's board, Mr. Anthony Spiegelberg, on the online, and we also have their engineer for the project as well, who can probably speak to that. I do understand they have other funds that they've had to help as match and to participate in this. The whole project is, in addition to the various projects that they have done in the necessary renovations of the building. They've had a lot of air handler problems early on and during 2020 area. And they've repaired most of that, replaced the roof, or been working on roof replacement and some other renovations to bring all of their resources in-house that they've had to spread out around the city. The parking lot in particular has been a hazard for the population that they serve, as it has a lot of sloping areas and a lot of areas where ice builds up, and they want to repair that. So I would not want to take away from what Mr. Spiegelberger would say.
Thank you, Ms. Blackwell.
Per their submitted application, they have $1 million from the Whitney benefits that is approved. They have the $423,500 from 2024 MRG. They have $500,000 from the city of Sheridan cap tax that is approved. And then they have $350,000 pending from Mountains and Plains Environmental Justice Grant.
Thank you. Any further questions? I'm going to turn to Mr. Spiegelberg. I see your hand is up.
Thank you, members of the board. Mr. McCray did a good job of describing what we had there. The total project cost is about 3.2 million at this time. And it does solve not only parking issues, but maintenance issues in the parking lot, drainage, safety issues for our seniors crossing the lot and picking up home delivered meals. We deliver somewhere between 300 and 500 home delivered meals every day in Sheridan. So it's a very important service. As was noted, we have a pledge from Whitney Benefits, who is also a neighbor to this property, that represents about a 31% private match. And I would put out that this is just a really important opportunity for us with these monies to proceed with this project. We're still going to have some fundraising to do, but with budgets changing in our community and in the state level and the federal levels, we continue to struggle, honestly, from a day-to-day basis of meeting operational funds. And so I think that program availability such as this is the way we're going to need to fund this safety program. We're going to need to rely on our community, the members of our community, the wonderful foundations that we have for operating funds to continue to provide the level of services that we do in Sheridan. So we very much appreciate your consideration of this. I hope that helps clarify some of the monies we have for a match and what the project is, and I'd be happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you. And just for the record, can you make sure, would you certify you're Anthony Spiegelberg?
Yes, sir. This is Anthony Spiegelberg from Sheridan.
Yeah, thank you. Madam Superintendent,
Mr. Chairman, question for staff.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you recall off the top of your head how much total we provided to the city of Sheridan or to the hospital there for ARPA funding?
So, Mr. Chairman, Madam Superintendent, the city of Sheridan received $2,840,000 in ARPA funding. I do not have the hospital's amount. I can find it quickly if you would like. That's how much they received in ARPA funding. I do want to point out that the city of Sheridan is a frequent visitor of our SRF program. They have over almost $41 million out in SRF loans. And the other thing I'd like to point out, funding for senior centers is limited. They don't have many places to go to get funding. So this is one of their main sources to come and try to get funding. They're kind of their own little individual animals, and they don't have their little special place like some other types of projects.
And follow up, quick question, does the Scots had a foundation, as I remember, have they been approached on any of this?
Mr. Chairman, that would probably be a good question for Mr. Spiegelberg.
Mr. Spiegelberg, do you know if the Scott Foundation was approached for this project?
Thank you for that question. The Scott Foundation has continued to be a wonderful supporter of the senior center. We have spoken with them about this project and others. I can tell you that I was one of the capital co-chairs for our last major fundraising campaign for the remodel of the building about 8 years ago. And the Scott Foundation and family was wonderful in their support. Tom Scott was also a co-chair in that. And so they have been great supporters. But coming back to my statement a minute ago, we're facing a lot of challenges in the community, and it's becoming a little more important for us to focus on our local donor opportunities to help us with operating funding for the hub. And so thus why these public projects that are available out there from a funding source are really, where we're headed more for a project like this parking lot. Let's face it, parking lots are not a really sexy thing to go present to a foundation and show them beautiful new buildings and people smiling walking through the door. It's kind of a necessary evil that we need to do, and it's important for our safety. So long answer, but the Scott Foundation has been very supportive. They continue to be very supportive of our hub.
Thank you. Yeah, the Scotts are a wonderful family, so thank you very much for that. Any questions, any further questions? Madam Auditor.
Mr. Chairman, probably for Mr. Spiegelberg. So if you were to receive the 500,000 that's recommended today, what would your project is not whole, but what's the gap? I sort of have this penciled out, but I want to make sure I'm thinking of that correctly.
With the 500,000 that has been recommended here, you're correct. We are still short somewhere between 700,000 and 800,000. So I think that it would require us to continue some fundraising within the community. There still are some opportunities out there that we can push. It likely will extend the time frame before we can start the project. You know, we don't have a big cushion of funds to go ahead and start it and fundraise later. We need to make sure the funding is all in place now and that we get a good fixed cost contract on this. So likely we have to continue to pursue other state and federal opportunities. We have made a couple other asks on those levels, and one of them was declined at the time, but we may be able to go back there. So we've got another 700,000 or 800,000 to work on. We may see some more participation out of our great neighbor Whitney Benefits. If we get close on this, I'm hopeful that maybe they'd help us push it over the finish line.
Follow up, and Mr. Spiegelberg, I apologize because I'm guessing this may have been discussed at some prior meeting. Can you talk to me a little bit about the estimate, how you came to that, and what alternative solutions that were looked at, and how confident you are in those numbers?
I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. We have hit a stage on this where 99% of the construction drawings are complete. We've been working with QC10 architects, Thane McGelkey, and I think he may be on the line here today, really for the past 2 or 3 years on this project as part of our master development plan. So their estimate of 3.2 is based on his knowledge of the market and current projects around the city of Sheridan and around the state. So right now we feel that that number is, you know, it's what we're working for. It's construction, so it could change. They seem to rarely go down, but that's the number we have right now. And I think it has as good a basis as we can establish. From a design standpoint, we have looked at options. This is a parking lot that a lot of it's been there for 30 plus years. It's been repaired in spots. Some of the things that, in addition to the deterioration of the parking lot, that are really important in this is we're looking at changing the grade of how the parking lot approaches the building and the corresponding stair access to that. The pickup for our home delivered meals area is back on the north side of the building, and especially in the wintertime, we get a lot of ice and snow buildup back there. And a lot of the people who pick up those home delivered meals, you know, are 50, 60 years old themselves. So it's a safety issue. We also have a traffic pattern issue in there that's difficult to solve without redoing much of what we're proposing here. The other thing that this adds as a benefit to our community is, I mentioned our neighbor Whitney Benefits, and many of you I know have seen the Whitney Park back there, Whitney Commons, that is such a gathering spot in between the senior center and the YMCA that's just to the north of that. And there's, you know, hundreds of kids down there in the summertime in the splash pad and other areas. And the timing works out such that really a lot of their patrons can use the parking lot and benefit from it at times that, you know, our patrons aren't necessarily there. So there is a side community benefit. The other thing I would like to present to you is that in addition to the $1 million match we have from Whitney, through private funding, we also purchased and developed a new parking area that's just to the east of the center that sits on Brook Street in Sheridan. And that added, I believe, around 70 parking spaces for the hub And honestly, a lot of our downtown community uses it. The cost of that between the land and the improvements that we did at the time, which is part of this entire master process of planning, was right at $1 million. So in addition to the private money we're proposing right now, we as a community and our private citizens have also already put in another $1 million into a similar improvement that will tie in nicely with this.
Thank you.
Thanks. One question more from me, Mr. Spiegelberg. The state has a grants management office that is intended to be helpful in seeking and securing grants. Have you approached Drew Palmer at all on this?
Mr. Governor, I have not personally done that, and I don't know if we have. I know that we have been working with MC2 up here in Sheridan in helping us find opportunities for funding out there. And that certainly is a question I can propose to them to make sure that we've made that connection.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Further questions? Mr. Mayor, City Administrator, thank you very much for being here.
No, thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Spiegelberg, for being available online. Members of the board, how do you want to handle this? Do you want to proceed to the next and then come back, or would you want to move straight on through? Hear from each? Okay. So next up, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to ask the director here, we had this consent list. Are you interpreting it that the conditions that were laid out were also passed as part of the consent list, or do we need to move those separately?
Mr. Chairman, in an exercise of caution, it's probably fine to move those conditions as well to be clear for the minutes that those are also accepted.
Okay, well, I would like to move the conditions for the full funding list that we approved. I guess we could do it on a consent. I think maybe we provide opportunity for public comment if any of the participating agencies may have issues with the conditions. And I think it was reasonable to assume that they didn't have any issues with the full funding, but they might want to comment on that. But I do think we need to address the conditions on the full funding list that were recommended. So I would, do you want to maybe see if there's public comment and we can move them, or do you want to do it at the end?
I'm happy to do that now, Mr. Secretary, if you feel it seems a little bit redundant, but happy to do it. Was there any public comment on the issues that were moved on the consent list and with the director's recommendation, which I would assume, Madam Director, also included the conditions? Is that correct?
That was my understanding, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. If that's so, then we can also move the conditions for the purpose of the minutes, as you suggested.
Yeah, so I move the conditions.
So the secretary's moved separate conditions, and so we know what the minutes are going to say. Madam Director, you want to kind of go through what those conditions are?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, there are 3 of them that you see listed underneath full funding. They are for the Carbon County Fire Protection District training trailer, for the City of Sheridan fire apparatus, and for the town of Bar None, their new fire apparatus. I'll let Ms. Blackwell talk to you about how these conditions were determined, if that's acceptable.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, board members. So this was our first funding of a training trailer. So we worked with the state forester, or not forester, fire marshal Byron, to come with these conditions, as we didn't know very much about a fire training trailer. So it sounds like they're rather large. You have to make sure that you have the appropriate sized vehicle to pull your trailer, and that you have the proper training for the driver who is driving said trailer. So those conditions came about by working with the state fire marshal. The
Let me stop and just make doubly sure. Is anyone from Carbon County Fire District here? Do you want to address this issue, or do you have any particular issues with the conditions? Thank you, sir, for being here.
Governor Gordon, Board. My name is John Rutherford. I'm the District Chief for the Carbon County Fire Protection District. And we understand the conditions and are perfectly agreeable with that. We understand the conditions and will comply with those.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Treasurer?
Reading through this, it looks like all these conditions are pretty much YDOT requirements. And so whether this is passed or not, you have to follow YDOT requirements. Is that correct?
The fire service has some exemptions through state statute, but we choose not to follow those exemptions just as a liability protection for us. These make perfect sense to us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have the City of Sheridan.
The city of Sheridan, these are our standard conditions that we put on all fire apparatuses. Some of our emergency vehicles, before my time, they had worked up these conditions, and we've continued to require these conditions as I think it's important they meet certain standards and check all the boxes so that they're safe and that they are being used as required. So City of Sheridan, they must ensure that their apparatus is, the unit meets all National Fire Protection Association standards. They must competitively bid the unit. It's their responsibility to decide on if the low bid meets bid specifications. And it also is the applicant's responsibility to reject any unacceptable low bids with a report describing all bids received by the applicant to OSLI. And then finally, all approved funding for fire vehicles purchased must receive written OSLI staff approval prior to purchase to define eligible and ineligible items to be installed on or in the vehicles, and it meets the NFPA requirements.
And I'll have Sheridan come on up, and Mr. Treasurer. go
Yeah,
ahead.
I guess just for clarification, are these rules or policy?
These have been office policy. This has been the standing conditions that have been put on every fire truck that's probably ever been approved through MRG.
So rules, I think they'd have to follow them. Policy, they'd have to be directed to follow it. Not. I don't think policy has the effect of law. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer, please. Sir, thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Board, thank you very much.
And your name, sir?
Gary Harnish,
Yeah, okay,
Fire Chief, City of Sheridan.
Thank you, Mr. Harnish.
The conditions laid out are our process. So we have no issues with them. That's the process that we follow anytime we purchase new apparatus.
Very good.
I guess without the report to the board, which we wouldn't do, but other than that, the standards are all our standards also.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? Thanks very much for coming down.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And last, I guess we have the town of Bar None.
Mr. Chairman, Town of Bar None has the same conditions as the City of Sheridan did.
Is anyone here from the town of Bar None? Hey, sir, thank you very much for coming down.
Eugene Zahara, Fire Chief for the town of Bar None. We're good with all the specifications. Most engine builders will not allow a fire engine to roll off the line without it meeting NFPA standards. The only thing I would like to add is the money that we're requesting is because we did not receive funding through the ISC that was already approved for the Dino Solar project west of town. Talking to the attorney for the town as well as the mayor, if we do start receiving that money, we are willing to reimburse the mineral royalty grant money.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
It's what I love about this process is towns are often, they really appreciate their neighbors and try to help. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board.
Any questions? If there are none, Madam Auditor.
Mr. Chairman, I would just, I think additional understanding and the chance to hear from everybody is great, but these are very explicitly part of the director's recommendation in our materials, which is what was moved. So I don't think they need to be moved again.
Thank you. Further questions? Now, can you, Madam Director, I can't remember, did the secretary, you moved these conditions, is that correct?
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I did it after asking the director whether
Yeah.
she interpreted as part of the motion, and she basically said no. So just trying to button this up. I don't think it's, I'm not sure, you know, to go back on the tape, but I'm not sure director's rec was actually part of the motion. I think it was like full funding. And so, but I could be wrong on that. So that was, you know, but I think this is a good belt and suspenders. I don't think it's controversial. I think we could also add there a caveat on, Bar None just said that they would be willing to reimburse if those funds come through. Maybe we add that as part of the condition. And I'll, you know, that if they come through, that they're willing to do that reimbursement. And it's an if-then statement. So, I mean, that's all we're trying to do. It's.
Thanks, Mr. Secretary. I just wanted to make sure that, and can't remember if I called for a second. It's been moved by the secretary. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Motion fails. I think it is implicit. I thought I understood your motion to be the director's recommendation. Thank you. All right, back in front.
Perfect. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, on your question related to conditions, those are part of receiving the funding. While they're not in rule, it's a condition of receiving the funding.
All right. Ms. Blackwell.
The next one up is Town of Pine Bluffs for the oh, sorry, I skipped Laramie County Fire
Right.
District.
We have Laramie
Sorry.
County. Yeah.
For their tactical tender.
Is Laramie County here? Yes, they are. How are you this morning, sir?
Good, sir. Thank you, Mr. Governor and Board. I am Paul Pomeroy, Fire Chief of Laramie County Fire District 10 out west. This is my Assistant Chief, Jason Ruff. We are way good with partial funding. We are in a position now to be able to match that. We take care of 160 square miles out west. A lot of interstate accidents, UP fires, grass fires. This will help our community and our district. Huge.
Thank you, sir. Other questions? Thank you for your efforts. I hope you have
Thank you.
nothing to do this summer. I pray that
Thank you.
every single day.
Thank you.
God bless you for your work. Thank you. Yeah, I know. All right, now we're on the Town of Pine Bluffs. Ms. Blackwell, you want to?
Sure. The Town of Pine Bluffs is requesting $1 million for their Northwell Industrial Park. They are matching this grant with SRF loan as well as a capital construction loan. This is part of a much bigger project that they've been working on for many years.
Very good.
Good morning. My name is Kim Patterson. I'm the town administrator and treasurer for the Town of Pine Bluffs, and this is Chris Lidstone, who is our town engineer. I would like to state that our overall project came in at just under $12 million. The base portion of that was funded $3.8 million by local funds, SRF funds of $1.875, and ARPA funds of just under $1.7 million. This again came up to the $7.6 million that got us through the base phase of the project, which focused mostly on the residential area. We also have a light industrial area and a commercial area. We had to forego doing those because we didn't have the funds at the time to make that industrial area happen. Since then, we have noted that we have a source water protection plan issue that led us to try to push forward with that light industrial park area so that we could relocate a fertilizer plant to that area as opposed to the location that they currently own, which shares a corner of the property with one of our deep wells. In addition, we have also pre-sold 2 of those industrial park lots, and we have people just chomping at the bit for the other 3 industrial park lots. So with that said, in order to accomplish putting in that industrial park, we would need another total of 4.3 million. We do have some funds available to accomplish that, and we have, you have graciously approved an increase to our SRF loan. And this $1 million that we were requesting would cover the sewer portion of that. And we will be back to see you again in August for a capital construction loan to help us out with the rest of that project. If we don't achieve the full $1 million, we will be able to do the industrial park portion of that project, but we will not be able to take care of that small commercial area. And while we do have a current occupant in that area, Pine Bluffs Distilling, they currently use a small lift station to push their waste to our existing lift station. But anybody that would move in further east of them in that commercial district, which we have a couple of companies that are in negotiations now, they would not be tied into our sewer system initially. The timing of this is of the utmost importance because we currently have a fantastic contractor on site that is working through the entire project. And we would love to be able to just work this through as a change order to that contract as opposed to having to rebid this later on and potentially costing us a whole lot more in mobilization costs and other things like that.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. Ms. Blackwell, any color?
I just applaud the town for putting in the loan requests and doing the hard work and really making something, doing what they need to do to make something that's important to them happen.
Thanks. Questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Treasurer.
Just a little discussion, I guess, on, I'd really like to try to get 300,000 in there, but it all kind of depends on how much we need for emergencies. Because we've got, what, about $1.6 million or something like that for emergencies and 2 more tranches of 5 million.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Treasurer. So the 16.8 million that you have going into this, it'll be 11.8 after this. However, the board chooses to spend those funds is truly the board's prerogative. The hardest part about all of this is no one has a crystal ball. So no one knows what emergencies are going to be coming this way. In the future, I've recommended the board or the office consider a much lower amount for allocation at the February meeting, just so they can reserve funds for any emergencies that happen in the spring. Say there's a really hard winter and there's a lot of spring runoff. We've had springs where we've had to address a lot of flooding issues. Or say there's a fire issue and it is affecting a watershed. You just never know what's going to happen. And so historically, in my tenure in this position, I've always tried to keep anywhere between $7 to $8 million going after that third meeting. That way I knew hopefully I had enough funds to address any emergencies. And then say we didn't have any emergencies, that last meeting is a bigger meeting and you have a bigger chunk of money to award. But I feel like I've always been very conscientious and very conservative in recommending the amount to fund at each meeting. However, these are just recommendations. Yeah. You ultimately have the decision, and if you go above, it's happened before. I mean, past boards used to go crazy on the first two meetings, and then we'd have very little to fund in the final two meetings or to address emergencies. So as I always say, every meeting's different because every group of applications is different. And there's no right or wrong answer to this, because just because this is what we recommended to you all doesn't mean that someone else wouldn't have recommended something different. And it doesn't make one right and one wrong. It's just,
Yeah, I wasn't looking for right or wrong maybe, but just kind of understanding what the average emergencies after the, assume we're going to spend $10 million of the 11.
Mhm.
We're kind of budgeting 11.8 for emergencies after the February meeting. Is that kind of the mindset on this?
no, sir. So after this meeting, you'll have $11.8 million for the next two regular meetings, as well as any potential emergencies. And so what I would suggest, say you don't get any emergencies between now and the February meeting, what I would recommend to the board would be giving about 4 million of that. So then you have a good cushion going into the spring to address any emergencies. God forsaken, there's a huge natural disaster or something. There's now a loan program to come in and help with that. The governor has emergency funds that would help in those situations. If you remember, I think it was last biennium, we didn't have any MRG money when we started the biennium. And then we got 10 million and we didn't have any regular MRG meetings until that last one in June of 2024, just to reserve those funds. But the thing
We're
that.
going to have another meeting before the end of construction season in August for just regular MRG. When's the next one?
The next meeting will be in your February 2026.
February.
Correct.
2026.
Applications will be due the third Thursday in September for that meeting. It takes staff quite a while to vet the applications, get agency reviews, do all the behind the scenes stuff. So the application's due in September, awarded in February. And then the next application period would be applications due the third Thursday in February to be considered next June.
I was just looking for flexibility. We got a shortfall on these. I don't know whether we could have a motion to, support all these at the current level, but if any extra funds became available from any source, then we could add to it before the February.
And Mr. Treasurer, I'd reserve those comments till the end, if that's all right. I'd like to try to keep on this project, if
Mr.
that's
Chairman.
okay.
Makes sense.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So part one for Ms. Blackwell and then a question for the proponents. So even if this is a non-emergency project, it still has to be an essential public service. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then for the proponents, can you talk a little bit? I think you guys are putting together a great project. You guys are working really hard at it through all the different avenues. Can you speak to how this is truly an essential public service?
Yes. I think that affordable housing is a major issue in the state of Wyoming, but especially in Laramie County. We have many residents in the town of Pine Bluffs that support all local businesses in the community. We have businesses that are growing, and we have several businesses that would love to have their employees live in Pine Bluffs. Unfortunately, there is no housing available. We were somewhat landlocked until we were able to purchase this land in 2014 with the help of this board and WWDC and other funding sources. We were able to purchase 318 acres just north of the community and annex that in. It was purchased for water sustainability to bring us into the future. And then in 2018, we did a land use plan on how to further develop that land. And since then, we have been reaching out to developers to see if they would be interested in developing. Unfortunately, they really didn't want to take that step into the Pine Bluffs area. And so the town decided it would be in our best interest to take that project on ourselves. And so we have since been working diligently to get all the funds together for this, and we were able to design and engineer the project using all town funds. And we're able to then get the funding through a variety of sources to make the project actually happen, to put in all the infrastructure to make that happen. And while some of our lots are a little bit larger, we do have several people that live in the town proper now that are looking to upgrade. They've moved out, they're ready to move out of their starter home into a larger home, and that will also open up homes in the community for other folks looking for starter homes. But in addition, we have not several, but a few businesses in town that are looking at expanding and bringing in more employees. And so that would also be a need for housing, but also the need for the light industrial area, which is where two businesses are relocating to because they have grown out of their current location.
Thank you. Ms. Blackwell, then the treasurer.
Members of the board, Madam Superintendent, the essential public service related to this project is the fact we're funding a sewer line, and providing sewer to your community is providing an essential public service, similar to when we fund water projects or any other sewer related project.
Thank you, Ms. Blackwell. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to try a motion. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then I guess it doesn't. We'll see.
Actually, Mr. Treasurer, we had sort of talked about going
we're
through.
just going to do one more, so we'll do one more and then come back to this. Then.
Yeah, that was kind of what we were
Yeah.
planning to do. Thank you.
All right.
My question is for Chris Lidstrom. So, Mr. Lidstrom, if I may, and you're reminding me that 2014, if I remember, there were water issues in Pine Bluffs. If I remember correctly, there was a pivot that you all ended up buying the land under so that you could develop this. And I, at least in my briefing, I thought I understood that the location of the business actually was part of the issue there for the well now, and I'm trying to understand how that plan worked.
Sure. Your memory is correct. We went through the 2000 to 2010 drought period, and primarily the town of Pine Bluffs has and depended in the early 2000s on shallow wells completed in what's called the Brule Aquifer, which is basically a fractured clay, highly susceptible to surface contamination. What made this attractive, the purchase of the Kimsey irrigated property, was the fact that they actually had deeper wells completing what is called the terrace aquifer, which actually filters, rainwater filters, fertilizer impacts and so forth. So that was really, so it was not just additional water, but it was really almost a redundant water supply or water source, which really allowed the town to get that security, because the way the Brule works, you get fractures. You might have a 500 gallon a minute upper fracture. Once that water level just drops 3 feet and that fracture dries up, your well goes from 500 gallons a minute to 40 gallons a minute. It's a very oddball, hydrogeological factor. Usually as you lose saturated thickness in aquifer, you steadily see a decline. That was not true in Pine Bluffs, where any users or farmers who use the Brule. So it's a very odd situation. And the other thing to answer Madam Superintendent's question too is, and Kim Treasurer mentioned this too, is because these Brule wells are so susceptible to contamination, and we do have one of our fertilizer plants owns property right next to one of our shallow wells. And they were working with me on our source water protection plan. But really the solution was, can we just move your location away from our well, which is mainly potential for, we already have a nitrate issue in Pine Bluffs. We already have this nitrate issue. So the idea was to move the fertilizer plant away. And so this location, which we engineered for the industrial park, is down gradient of all of our municipal wells, both the ones within this Kimsey property we call the North Wells property, but also all of our town wells. So we located it as far downgrading as we could. And that's really where, in our discussions with Helena, they agreed to move it. But part of the issue from our standpoint was timing, because they didn't really want to wait for a couple of years to move. They really wanted to move soon because of this need for their own expansion. So that's why we came from, I think as treasurer, as Kim noted, was we really did our best, with, when the bids came in so much higher, we initially just negotiated to do the residential part, the affordable housing part. And then when the source water protection issues really came up, we said, we really need to get the latter parts, phase 2 and phase 3 of this project moving forward. So that's really was the essential nature of why we came back to you for this.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Patterson. Further questions? All right, if there are none, let's move on to the Town of Wheatland application.
Mr. Chairman, we provided each of the board members a letter that was sent from the mayor. He is unfortunately unable to attend today, but he did want to let you all know he wanted to be here, and he's gracious for the recommendation that was provided. The town of Wheatland is requesting $2,078,305 to help fund their 16th Street Infrastructure Improvements Project. This is one of those projects where it was originally funded through ARPA. They were unable to meet the ARPA deadlines and lost their ARPA funding.
Thank you. Please come on up. And it's good to see you, Representative Harrelson. So.
I'm Tabitha Ennis, Clerk Treasurer.
If you could come up and.
Sorry, Tabitha Ennis, Clerk Treasurer, Town of Wheatland. I have Representative Harrelson here and our Councilman Willie Ellison. So you just answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you speak to the partial funding amount, and does that still allow the project to move forward, just knowing that we're halfway through the biennium and find ourselves here and that reasoning from staff for the 772?
So I think we're still short about $2 million after that funding. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, would you mind if I speak into this a little bit? So just to give a little bit of a background on this project, obviously when we start these projects, it was pre-COVID, looking at running from Swanson Road all the way to the Maverick, if you know 16th Street in Wheatland at all. And that was about an $8 million project at that time. And obviously, if you've gone out and bought a set of tires or decided to do any work on your house, you realize that pre-COVID, post-COVID isn't the same world. And so the project went from an $8 million project to we knocked out about a third of the length of that project and went to roughly a $14 million project. Under the current recommendations, and I want to just thank you guys for being willing to pick this up as we've talked. Obviously, the timetables didn't align on ARPA funds and it just didn't work out. And so thank you for being willing to even have this conversation and talk about funding on this project. But when we look at that, as it currently sits, Town of Wheatland has put 2.6 million of their current reserves into this project. We passed our 6 penny tax, which was 2.5 million towards this project. So that put us right into that world of just over 5 million. And then with what is currently recommended of the 793,113, that unfunded gap would put us up to right at the town covering 6.4 million. That extra money, that roughly 1.3 million that we don't have would actually come out of our 6 penny tax for another project. So it would unfund an electrical project that we're needing to do in town. So it's kind of this rob Peter to pay Paul concept. So the question to the good superintendent of instruction is could we move forward? The answer is yeah. But what can't we move forward with because of that? And so it's a situation where the funding gap of that 1.3 million is definitely going to be problematic. The other issue is this, no change orders were considered into this 14 million. Obviously, the game of change orders is a real thing. And so it's just kind of this weird world of taking an $8 million full scope project, turning it into about a 2/3 scope project at 14 million, and kind of the battle we're fighting with that. And so just, I guess, kind of giving that oversight. I mean, first of all, thank you. We're very grateful for any way you guys can help us. But at the same time, we're also sitting there going, in this world where we just can't seem to stretch money like we used to stretch money, obviously we would be very grateful if we could relook at this number and possibly try slide a little higher up, just because down the road, I mean, as we're looking at infrastructure, Wheatland has just found itself at this point where we're just finding inadequacies in the infrastructure there in Pike County and Wheatland. So I think, sorry, that's kind of an overview of 30,000, but I think hopefully might answer that question.
Mr.
Madam
Chairman,
Superintendent.
follow up for Ms. Blackwell, was the 2,078,000 and change, was that the amount of the ARPA grant, or did they expend?
Let me pull their ARPA grant up real quick.
Wait, yeah,
Ms.
come on up.
Blackwell, I think it was 793.
That is what they ultimately reverted, is the amount that they
Okay.
reverted.
And Madam Treasurer, if I may ask, the Grants Management Office, they had recently a workshop. Have you been able to take advantage of any of that?
Yeah, we've taken advantage of a lot of grants right now, so.
Okay, because Drew Palmer, the senators and I set up an office to try to help communities with seeking those. And
Yeah, we've been.
I will mention this to Drew and see if there's anything more that we can do for you. But anyway, Madam.
One other thing to point out is when we look at funding recommendations, we also look at what they currently have outstanding and what they haven't spent. They currently have over $1 million related to the water tank that still hasn't been spent. So that also goes into our funding consideration when we look at this, is how much funding they've recently received and if they've spent that money that they've recently received.
And Ms. Blackwell, if I may, just sort of trying to follow up on this, there may be portions of this that are clean water or safe drinking water. Those require a certain amount of match, and I guess one of the things I get concerned about is communities getting overextended unexpectedly. And I'm not talking about the knowledgeable decisions that communities make. I'm talking about just the constitutional requirements.
Absolutely. So in order for Wheatland to take advantage of the SRF programs, they would have to be on the intended use plan. And I do not believe this project is on either intended use plan. I believe it used to be, but it is not currently on the new ones. The community could come and get a capital construction loan to do this. The interest rate is tied to the U.S. Treasury of the same duration of the loan. They can apply 90 days before any regularly scheduled SLIB meeting to fund that. That program can pay for roads, streets, gutters, sidewalks, water, sewer. Really, it can pay for any portion of this project that they wouldn't have a funding shortfall.
And Mr. Treasurer, if memory serves, that's around 200 million that's available. Is that?
There's 133 million currently available in that program to loan out.
Thank you.
The caveat on that, they can do it if they haven't reached their maximum borrowing capacity. And that's something, you know, I don't know where Wheatland is and whether you actually want to reach the maximum. So if you have an emergency, then you can't even borrow. So you need a little cushion there, but that's something that you look at. The other thing, Mr. Chairman, is the CBDG money. That's $2 to $3 million a year usually. And I tell you, people that get that a lot of times have nothing to do with infrastructure, you know, so I can't understand what we're doing with the CBDG money sometime. It's been kind of a grab bag for, you know, a special project when people walk in the door, so. But, it's a heavy lift, but we have a person from Upton on the board now that's sitting in the back row. You can probably ask him about that, getting that on the list. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Blackwell.
Mr. Treasurer, they already have $2 million from CDBG in this program, into this project. Yes, sir. They have 2 million approved into this project already.
Thank you. Does the town councilman want to address the board?
Be an honor. First time, Willie Allison, my first tour on town council, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. It's memorable. Yeah, it seems like being new to the council, yeah, we have a lot of projects that has jumped up and bit us, and being Wheatland as we are, we don't have oil and gas. We have sand and rock. So we're not like Campbell County's Converse, Sweetwater. We got to deal with what we got, and that's why we come with our hands out to the board here. So, but I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Allison,
Chairman.
for being here.
Megan.
Very good. Further questions, further clarifications? Any other? If there are none, I think what we said at the outset was that we would kind of go through these one by one and then come back and visit the whole thing. So, Mr. Treasurer, since I put you off at the last, yeah.
So are we just going to go ahead and vote down the line, and when we get down to these ones, if we want to add some money to them, then that's when we pop up, or start at the top, or start where we want to make a motion on.
And Mr. Treasurer, I'm open to either approach.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
I'm happy to look one by one.
Yeah.
But I thought you had
Yeah, I
talked
do.
about something.
I'll just go ahead and start on number 3. Looks like we've got 16,826,318. And what I do would request, Mr. Chairman, that we put 326,318 into project number 3, the town of Pine Bluffs. And I haven't done the math on that, but we got just add those up.
That gets you to $950,876.
$958.76. That's not a round number, but we got 16.5 left, Mr. Chairman, and I can't determine whether 16.8 or 16.5 is the right number going forward, but 16.5 is still a lot more money than we spent on this round, for sure.
Second.
So the treasurer's made a motion. It's been seconded by the auditor. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Madam Auditor.
somebody already said this, but I would just really commend Pine Bluffs on being scrappy, to put it. Just being, using all the tools in their tool chest and making new tools when they don't have one. So.
And they do have goat yoga out there.
And goat yoga.
I think it's important, Mr. Chairman, because the relocation of, finishing up a small part is going to be a lot more than what it will be today. Prices always go up. And if you got a trencher in the ground and you have to pull up 500 foot short of actually finishing it because you run out of money for the materials, I know I never put a pivot in. That was a quarter section. I only put 1,000 foot of pipe to it because it was 300 foot short of the pivot to get water through it. So.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, I would move director's recommendation, including the conditions for Laramie County Fire District number 10.
Okay. Been moved by the superintendent, seconded by the auditor. Any discussion?
Aye.
Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion carries. Mr. Secretary.
I would move the director's recommendation on the City of Sheridan Hub Smith project, and then also, well, I'll just start there.
Okay. Secretary's made a motion for the director's recommendation, City of Sheridan, Hub on Smith parking lot. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Mr. Secretary, I'm sorry to say that fails for lack of a second.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Auditor.
I would move director's recommendation on number 4, Town of Wheatland. So that's going to be 772558.
Second.
It's been moved by the auditor, seconded by the superintendent for director's recommendation for item number 4, Town of
Mr. Chairman.
Wheatland. Mr. Secretary.
I'd like to move an increase on that to $1 million. So I believe that's an addition of 227,000 and change. There was some indication that, we get this a little closer to $1 million. That would help the town a little bit. So I'd like to move that friendly amendment to the motion.
All right, thank you. Is it taken as a friendly amendment? If not, I'll ask for a second. Is there a second? Is there a second? Mr. Secretary, sorry, that motion fails. I did have a question for the Town of Wheatland, for Tabitha, if I may. One question that I had, I thought you had said if you were funded at the director's recommendation, you were still 2 million short?
Yes, about 2 million short.
And your full request is for 2,078,000. And so it seems to me there's a bit of a gap still in
Yes.
what you requested.
Yes, there's still a big gap.
Okay, thank you.
Question while she's up there, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, please.
Do you have a 6th penny in for special
Yes, we do.
projects?
And so part of that money is 2.5 million is going to come from that. And then what the other 2 million will actually come from that. We were going to do an electrical project with that. And so that'll be put off until
So
the
if
next
you
6
get
penny.
2.5 million a year on the 6th penny, roughly.
Well, roughly, yeah.
Okay. All right. So might have to just keep it around and book it. Yeah.
Yep. And we'll
Thank
try
you.
again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know this has been a long project and you have put a lot into it. I really want to thank you for your perseverance and thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank Candy Wright, our grant writer too. Our previous.
Will do. Will do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr.
So
Chairman.
we're back on, yes, Madam Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask the auditor if it would be a friendly amendment to bump us to 900,000 for the Town of Wheatland.
Madam Auditor has accepted that. So the motion now is for 900. Is there discussion on that? Discussion? Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? That motion carries. Thank you. And we have left. I think are we?
Mr. Chairman, your last consideration is the recommendation for no funding on the Bighorn County Fire District number 2.
All right.
We haven't voted on the parking lot.
I thought we had not, we thought that you had started to move it, but it failed. I'm sorry.
But that's okay. Yes.
So the motion,
Mr. Chairman, I would move directly.
have we actually done that?
I believe the secretary made a motion, but then it died.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Mr. Chairman.
So, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that would mean that they could come back at later times at a third or fourth MRG meeting. Is that correct?
Correct. They could turn around and submit this at the September due date to be considered in February.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would move director's recommendation on no funding for Bighorn County Fire District number 2.
That motion has been made. Is there a second for no funding on the Bighorn County Fire District?
Mr. Chairman, I would second, but might ask if there was anyone here that would
Yeah,
like to speak to it.
I think that is appropriate and sort of a little bit out of order. Is Bighorn here? Are they online?
I can retract my motion if
That would be,
cleaner.
that would be nice if it would. Thank you, madam. Is there anyone from the Bighorn Fire District here? Anyone from Bighorn Fire District? Anyone online? It does not appear we have anyone. So you may
I will
resubmit.
remake my motion of director's recommendation for no funding on Bighorn County Fire District number 2.
Been
Second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? That motion carries. Thank you. Madam Director.
Mr. Chairman, I'm checking really quick with our Attorney General's representative to make sure we don't need an actual motion on Sheridan since no action was taken. The effect of, I want to check with Kate to see what that's acceptable. Okay, want to make sure that no action is.
It leaves it live, is my understanding. Is that correct? Thank you.
That's correct. And with that, the agenda is complete.
It's not quite. I want to, I want it.
Want your number?
Sure, we would love your number.
Sure.
Mhm.
So that leaves the board with $11,370,558 for the remainder of the biennium to cover emergencies and 2 meetings. If you split that baby in half and you didn't have any emergencies, that would be approximately $5.6 million per meeting.
Thank you. Members of the board, you may not know this, probably you do, but this is going to be Ms. Blackwell's last meeting. You predate me, you said, by a meeting or 2. So it's been a long time. I want to thank you for extraordinary service to the state. I know it has been a long go. You went through CARES, you went through ARPA, you did the regular grants. I know have a lot of people who have counted on you in the communities. I thank you for being always a voice of thoughtful advice. And I want to thank you personally very much for that.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
We'd love to get a picture.
Mr. Chairman, first, do you want me to move to adjourn?
You sure can.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries.